Welcome to StudyIQ. I am Prashant Bhavani. I hope you all are doing good. Today is 25th June. Let's see what we have got in the Hindu. But before that, a positive start. No matter what people tell you, words and ideas can change the world. Keep faith in this statement. With this, dear friends, I do apologize. There was a power cut in my area, so I was not able to record or do this analysis and basically research work. I was not able to complete my research work. It went away since early morning. I was not having any power at all, but now things are all right. Let's quickly go through what we have on table. Right, dear friends, very quickly, this one is about undernourishment. India remains lacking in the commitment to tackle undernourishment. This one is about as Saudi Arabia drives an OPEC agreement to increase oil output, the real impact is still unclear. We don't know what will happen with this decision. We'll go through it, don't worry about it. The tool for counting. It's time to debate the modalities of the next census, given the earlier confusion over caste data. Most humanitarian interventions have been undertaken when they suit the interest of US and its allies. How these three countries are dominating the whole world. This one is about military and political action apart. Dealing with the psychological aspects of affected communities is very important. You can use this psychological aspect when you talk about Naxalism, when you talk about terrorism and other problems that we find in our country. And then we have got this one, last one left. The objective of cow vigilant groups is clearly to target a particular community or particular communities. With this, dear friends, up to 50% discount is available on our pen drive and tablet courses. Find out more about it on StudyIQ.com. We have already launched our test series. Want to know more about it? Check out testseries.studyiq.com. Get in touch with me with Facebook or Twitter, and make sure you share and like this lecture once we are done with it. Now, dear friends, for nutrition security, a new report is out. The name of this report is State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World. 2017's latest report is launched by United Nations. There are 5 different agencies that work together to produce these figures and important information that we find in this report of State for Food Security and Nutrition in the World. Now, one more trick that I would like to, it's not a trick, it's a sort of hint, right? How you prepare or how you study. See, what we do is, means most of the students, if I'm not wrong, right, they will quickly go through State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World. Now, if you stop yourself and if you pay attention to the name of this report, right, you can judge, you can have a sort of educational guess on this thing, like what this report will be all about. Food security and nutrition. Is it limited to India? No, it is about the whole world. Of course, it will have some important, because we are discussing this thing today, then it should have some sort of facts and figures associated with our country. And once you spend 1 or 2 minutes or even half minute after the name, and if you try to break it down, then you will find that it will become much easier for you to read the whole article. Anyways, it was just a small tip. Do give it a go. Now, if we go through this report since 2000, what we used to see, right, there was a reduction in the undernourishment data or fact, facts or figures associated with undernourishment. They were, you can say, in control since early 2000. But things have changed now, and they have changed for bad. Since 2013, right, this graph that was in terms of being good, it was going up. But since 2013, what we are seeing is that it has started declining, and in 2016 it has gained some speed as well. So this is a matter of concern for every one of us. Whatever gains or whatever achievements that we have achieved since early 2000, these things are basically fading away. The results are fading away because of this falling graph. The other thing is, at present, if we see, then in 2014, 775 million people were going through this chronic food deprivation, but in 2016 815. So this is again a sad thing. One of the main reason is conflict and extreme effects of climate change. We have seen Syria, we know the case of parts of Iran, parts of Afghanistan, parts of Pakistan, but then our part as well, in our countries as well. In our country and other countries like India, we have this sort of problems, right? You have Naxal problem in our country, then you have problem of terrorism in different pockets of our country. So because of this thing, there are so many people, they are not able to, even today, they are living a life of 18th or 18th century, right? They don't have electricity, food, etc. Means when we say food, mean to say not a proper balanced diet. They are still not touched by development because of all these problems. So conflict is a main thing. Then other reasons are impact of economic downturn. Conflict we have already covered. Fall in commodity export revenues. If you don't make money, then of course you will not. If you are exporting something to Iran, say for example rice, say for example, and if you are not making money, then of course you will not sell rice to Iran. You will find some other market. Then people who are in need of food in that part of the world, they won't be getting that much food, and because of this thing, price will go up and all these other problems. So failure of agriculture as well, right? Climate change, something associated with climate change, drought and flood. This report is also saying that child under nutrition rates continue to drop, although 1 in 4 children is still affected by stunting. Now, one thing that we have to understand with all these reports is that this report, they talk about averages, right? They don't talk about these big gaps, right? That we find in some places. You can find that 5 out of 5 children are suffering from undernourishment. In some places, you may find 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 4. So this sort of reports, they give us this average, but this sad thing, or the, you can say, demerit of this report or this method of calculating is that it does not give us this extremes. It does not highlight extremes. So this is something that we have to worry about, and we have to keep this in our mind when we talk about sustainable development goals, because when we talk about SDGs, we have said that by 2030 the whole world will achieve this 17 sustainable development goals. But if this sort of conflicts and this climate change thing goes on, then we won't be able to achieve this thing. To achieve this SDG, or you can say nutrition security or food security, it was earlier on we were too much focused on food security, but now we have diversified our attention from food security with nutrition security, which is very important. If you are just consuming rice and wheat, then this is not going to be enough, right? It will fill your tummy, but it will not give you this micronutrients and other items that you need for a healthy body. So we have launched National Food Security Act. In our country at present, these are important figures. 14.5% of population suffers from undernourishment, and 53% of women are, that means 1 out of 2 women, right? 50% of ladies in our country, they are suffering from anemia. So this is again a matter of concern. So what we need to do is, under this National Food Security Act, we need to distribute proper balanced diet, or you can say we need to distribute all those grains, food grains that are having micronutrition and vitamins and other important items. That's it. And create awareness and make sure that all these myths associated with meat and eggs and other items, right, it's a personal choice of different people, but there are different pockets in our country where meat is cheaper, and it would be much easier for people to consume meat than go entirely vegetarian. So we have to keep in mind this cultural as well as different regions, and then we need to supply these food items. Again, education is something without which you won't achieve anything. If just imagine if 1 out of 2 lady is suffering from this thing, this anemia, a lack of blood, then you can imagine the future generation of this lady. So we need to educate them, we need to empower them, and we need to make sure that we fight against this culture that a daughter-in-law has to eat after everyone has finished their meal, right? This is not healthy. In many places it is associated with respect and culture, but in terms of health, this is not healthy, particularly for a pregnant lady. Moving on, this one is about change perceptions in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, this is how it works. Let me break it down for you. In any parts of the world, right, if you find problems are going on, then of course government will come out with some sort of solution, and whatever good is done by government is, it will quickly fade away from the memory of people once you find another sort of problems taking place. Something similar is going on in Jammu and Kashmir. The suspension of operation was declared to do something good because holy month of Ramzan was going on. But we saw this death of a journalist, as well as we saw this soldier was killed. So then operations were again started now, means this truce that was declared by government is over. Right now full action is going on in Jammu and Kashmir. Now of course we know that Pakistan is a neighboring country and it is a stakeholder. Basically, it is very much interested in creating or making sure that this conflict remains alive forever. So it is supplying fuel to this burning conflict in our country. And we have this 2003 agreement between both these countries. We have this 2003 agreement. So as per this agreement, it's basically about ceasefire violation. But the sad thing about this thing is that it's just a verbal agreement. So there cannot be any letter and spirit. We need to write it down. We need a proper agreement. We have to pressurize China, we have to pressurize USA, we have to pressurize Pakistan to make sure that they agree, that Pakistan agrees on signing this 2003 agreement, or we can have a new agreement. And we need a proper ceasefire at our LOC and international border. We cannot have this sort of interval firing or ceasefire violation being conducted by Pakistan. We can take example of Ladakh, or the border that we are sharing with China. See, India and China, we are sharing border with each other, and since last 2000 years we are having relationship with each other. But then again we have just one war between both of us, and this Ladakh area, we have this regular meetings taking place between army officers at the highest level. They do meet each other. So because of this thing, we are able to keep these borders relatively calm. Something similar should be applied here in this part, the part or here where we share our border with Pakistan. Now here you pay attention to this thing, right? This is very important. You have socio-political aspect, and then you have the socio-psychological aspect. These are the two things. When we talk about socio-political aspect, we are talking about land, natural resources, economic and political dominance. But when we talk about socio-psychological aspect, we are talking about ethos of conflict. We are talking about this emotions and other things, social beliefs and other things that are associated with this sort of troubles that are going on, say for example in our Kashmir. So these narratives are selective most of the time. This socio-psychological aspect or narratives, right, the things about which people talk, they are selective, they are biased, they are distorted, so we don't have reality. And the main function of this sort of the things that we are seeing, the word that is out there in the market is selective, is biased, is distorted, and it is being spreaded just to satisfy the societal need rather than providing a sort of objective solution or objective account of what's actually going on in Jammu and Kashmir. And then you have this sort of stakeholders, or you have people who will make the most out of this sort of rumors or distorted facts, or biased opinions and other things. You have separatists out there, and they will make the most out of it. They create this sort of thing that government is basically against, or government is in a state of war with the people of Kashmir. This is created, and this is actually not right, as we all know, right? Now, what happens, or psychologically, right, if this sort of things are going on, then no matter what we do, we won't be able to conquer or surmount this problem. Of course, that does not mean that we have to just work on socio-psychological aspect. We have to work on political level, we have to work on military level, intelligence level, but we have to make sure that this socio-psychology, we do something about this this perception that is out there. Government has to come out with a program, right? A program that can work, right? That can hit this, on dot. It is there on dot, that can hit this rumors and biased opinions and distorted facts that are out there. And once we do that, then we would be able to change the way change the things that are going on, and then we can change the tables as well. Right, sketchy deal. It's about OPEC. OPEC stands for Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. Here on your screen, these are the members here, 12 members, right? You can see name and everything is given. Now you have Saudi Arabia, number 10 that you see here. Saudi Arabia is de facto leader of this, or the main head of this OPEC. Not official, but unofficially, Saudi is the most powerful country out of all this OPEC countries. When it comes to, of course, now from the name itself, you can, I'm sure many of you would be aware about this thing, but if you are new to this thing, then it's about petroleum. It's about all those countries that are producing and exporting petroleum. Now, crude or oil price is something that is means when we talk about oil price, and whenever price goes up or if it comes down, then it becomes a big political debate, isn't it? It is a matter of politics as well. It's not just associated with natural resource and economics, but it is also about nowadays more about politics of any country or society. Now, Saudi Arabia's energy minister has said that they are going to increase the output of oil, or you can say crude oil. Now, again, yesterday as we talked about demand and supply, so if they are going to increase the supply, and there is already demand out there, so what will happen? The price will come down. Simple as that. So that's what they are trying to achieve here, because in 2016 production was too much, or demand was down and supply was up. So because of this thing, the prices were falling down. There was a bit of a slowdown in global economy too. So supply was high and demand was down. So they decided, these OPEC countries decided that they are going to cut down the supply. So they did that, and now they have decided that they are going to increase the supply. Now, right, they are going to pump out some more oil. And we know what's going on in our country. Petrol and diesel prices have gone up, and this is hurting us. In fact, we are bleeding very badly. It's not something that is sustainable for a country like India, where 80% of our oil needs are imported. USA has also strongly has urged many times to these OPEC countries to pump up a bit of oil and sell it in the market, to make sure that this global economy is not hampered because of high oil prices. Iran is not happy with this decision of OPEC, but still, as you know, that tagline said that things are not clear. What's the future going to be? Because still we don't know, right? We don't have any perfect figure like how much they are going to bring out, and still we don't know what exactly this, as far as politics is concerned, we don't know what will be the political outcome of this decision of OPEC countries. Moving on to another item, this is about smoke and mirrors. Now, Western powers, I was talking about P3, you have USA, UK and France. These are the three countries, or many times they are referred as Western world. Now, these countries are, they came out with this term called responsibility to protect, R2P, back in 2001, and this was supported by United Nations. But nowadays what we find is these countries, if they don't get permission from United Nations Security Council, of course they all these three countries, they have a veto power. So if anything is against them, then of course they will use their veto power. But if they don't get support from Russia and China to go ahead on something, then they will simply say that it is their responsibility as world leaders. They have to do something about it. They have this right to intervene in the countries where they find that government is not dealing with people democratically, or it's not being fine, humanitarian violation and other things. So they take unilateral action, or you find this three players, right, trilateral action, you can say, rather than United Nations approved actions. We have seen this thing in different parts of the world. The best example that I can give you is Syria, right? All these three countries, these P3s, they tried their level best to make sure that Bashar al-Assad is removed, or his regime is basically changed. And this has been their main focus. If they find any problem in any country, then what they will do first is they will try to change the regime. This is not the solution, right? Just changing regime is not going to help. What are you doing after changing the regime? Look at the state of Iraq. Look at the state of Syria now. There are so many countries, they are suffering because of this great games, or this this selfish viewpoint of this P3 countries. And yes, I'm using this word selfish because we know that they will change regime. They will, of course, when they change regime, they will put someone who is a puppet, or who can work as a puppet for these three countries. But what about the people of that country? We see so many people dying every day because of food. We have just talked about food deprivation. Then you read these reports regularly that people trying to cross Mediterranean or trying to cross the Sahara Desert and they die. As far as there was a demand for giving up this veto power when it comes to humanitarian intervention. But of course, this P5 countries would not do that, because, or if they do this thing, then their power will go away. So when it comes to, China and Russia, they are one. Then you have these three countries, they are one. When it comes to Russia versus USA, or USA versus China, but when it comes to veto power, they all become one, right? They protect each other's back. So this is a very, you can say, strange partnership, or you can say strange animosity that they have with each other. It's two sides of the same coin. Now, the tools for counting. Caste information could be collected. We don't have it now. We did try it by the socio-economic and caste census, SECC, but we failed. We don't have proper data. It is unusable data. It is not released by government yet, and there is a demand out there. People are asking for this. There are so many people asking for this socio-economic caste census. Now, I'm sure you'd be aware about this thing, that last census took place in 2011. Every 10 years we do it. So next one is going to be 2021. Now, if we want to make sure that 2021 data that we are going to collect is up to date, it is having all important information, then we need to start our planning now, because we have just 3 years to go. And if we keep our, if we plan it thoroughly now, then we can achieve this thing. We can collect this data on different castes in our country. Now, you would be wondering why we need caste data. Look at this example of 1871. This British government, they started collecting. Their first census took place in 1871. So they started collecting this caste data and other things to, first of all, they simple is that if you have data, then you can analyze it, and then you can come to a logical conclusion. So they collected this data, and based on this thing, they favored some castes, and they started rejecting other castes, or they were trying to ostracize other castes. And later on, they changed this whole situation. So Brahmin versus Dalit and Dalit versus Brahmin, this sort of things were created. So you can have a big impact on, or within our country, we can have a big impact if you have proper data. Now, the other thing is, even today, civil society, courts, political system, we still rely on old-fashioned 1931's census. So many things have changed, right, since 1931. There were Dalits who were not having any land. Now they are doing very well. There were higher castes who were having huge amount of land. Now they don't have any land. So you find poor and rich people in different groups, right? They could be coming from, or they would be from this Dalit caste or higher caste or forward caste. You can name it. You have somewhere around 46 lakh castes in our country. So these are big, you can say, major segments. You have OBC, then you have SC, ST, then you have general category. So you find poor people, uneducated people, right, in all these different segments that we have. So if we have proper data, then we can take good decision. Nowadays we have all these technologies too. So we can deploy technologies, this machine learning, artificial intelligence and other things to collect this caste data, and based on this we can rationalize our reservation policies. It is very important to rationalize it as well, because we don't want to see this divide in our country between general category and OBC and SC, STs, right? So we have to rationalize it, and if we do it, this is the right time to do it. If we can do this thing, then we can actually target people who are in need. Then you have this a new vulnerability. It is about this cow vigilance. They are trying to target a particular community, and that particular community is based on media report, you can say Muslims, right? Now Gandhiji has wrote about beef, or he has wrote about cow, not beef, but he has wrote about cow, and he has wrote about Muslims. Jinnah created a sort of fear, and Jinnah was saying or claiming that Muslims' food habits will not be respected, and for that they need a separate country and things like that. So in Lahore in 1940 he started campaigning for this thing, for a separate state or Pakistan, and Gandhiji was well aware about this thing, that we have enormous potential for violence in our country. Because we are so diverse, there are chances that you may clash with each other. So this was one of the main reasons he chose the path of non-violence when it comes to cow issue. And this is something that we need today, right? We need to work together, and above all, law and order should be equal for everyone. If someone has hurt someone, then that person should be behind the bar, or necessary proceedings should be done on that person, no matter which party he or she is belonging to. Now that's everything, dear friends. These are some important news items, right? You find word war going on between BJP and PDP. Then India cuts export quotas for Maldives. So this is going to create problems for Maldives as far as food is concerned. Then GST rides on federalism has been said by Prime Minister. He has appreciated the role of states for smooth GST, and during his Mann Ki Baat program. India, Bangladesh navies together, they are going to join hands. They are going to do this CORPAT, that is coordinated patrol. UAE's minister is going to meet the chief ministers of our country, and Prime Minister of Canada has said that this Kanishka bombing, it was a flight, right, 1985. It left Vancouver, and there was a bomb blast in this flight. It was a sort of terrorist attack. This was the worst terror attack, has been said by Prime Minister of Canada. And then you have government is going to use this big data system to help bank to make sure that this MPAs are not generated, and AIIB is going to invest 200 million. So help yourself with this one. And in last page of today's Hindu, you'll find this small article associated with this UNESCO heritage list. Make sure you go through that thing as well. The lady is having a smile on her face because she is from Saudi Arabia, and now the women in Saudi Arabia, they can drive, right? This is a big thing. And then you have your answers. These are your questions. That's everything in today's discussion, dear friends. Sorry again for being late today. As I told you that I was having power cut. Things will be back to normal from tomorrow morning. Enjoy your day. I'll see you all soon. Goodbye.